Hi, welcome everybody to BrittanyDelivers.com. I am Brittany Fowler, your audience connector, where I connect audiences with tailored, inspired messages. Today's video is about listening to your heart. I'm going to put this sign down really quick. So listening to your heart, right? I've been reading this book about heart intelligence, where there's actually been like sophisticated research been going on since 1990 about how our heart actually has its own nervous system, and it's actually almost more complex than our brain. And I was like, this is the first time I've ever heard of this. Like, I've always known like I can receive inspiration, and when I'm calm and peaceful, like I feel like I have more creative energy in my life and more joy. But there's actually science behind that. And so what they've done is they've actually researched, right? How do we talk to each other, okay, or receive knowledge or intuition through our heart space? And I've always been intrigued about that because I love to dive into meditation. Even though I'm not the best meditator, I could probably meditate for like 5 minutes and then I'm like, okay, I'm good, you know. Like, you don't have to be a master at meditation to feel its benefits, right? Just taking a brief, 30 seconds to 3 or 4 minutes can definitely help inspire your day. But that's beside the point. So in this book, it talks about a few things. First, how your heart can actually know things before your brain, how our heart communicates with others that are in the room, okay, and how they scientifically prove that we can actually physically, influence other people with our heart, and also just how complex, right, that all the sciences and how we can get our heart rhythm into a certain pattern to where we are more emotionally stable so that we can have more intuitive knowledge. Anyway, so it's a really easy read. It's not very long. I think I got it for like $4 on the Kindle. It's called Heart Intelligence, and I'll post a link, or I'll post the actual name of the author because off the top of my head I'm forgetting it. But anyway, so I want to talk to you about one thing that was really inspirational to me is that we can influence other people without saying a word, right? Like, we all know that communication through our mouths is only about 10% how we're communicating. Right now, I'm communicating with you with my eyes, with my body language, right? With my facial expressions. So it is but there's more to it than just body language, right? How we communicate with others, or at least that's what this science is saying. And so what they're saying is that, well, let me tell you the experiment and then we'll recap. So what they were saying is that they took an animal, okay, so they took a dog for one, and they took a horse for another, and they took their owners, and they put on these monitors, okay, that did heart rhythms, also beats per minute, and a couple other sophisticated equipment I can't remember. But anyway, to measure like the heart rhythms, okay, and what they did is they put them on the animal and also the owner, and they had them be in separate rooms. And so they monitored, right, for the control, and then they brought the owner and the dog together, and they told them, don't speak to the animal, just be with them, like stroke them, pet them, lay with them, whatever you want to do. And so what they ended up doing when they came together, okay, then they were monitoring the heart rhythms, and then they separated them, okay. What was so interesting is that when the animal and the owner were apart from each other, okay, they had their own specific heart rhythm, okay? But when they would come together, their heart rhythms, okay, the space between the beats per minute, their heart rhythms would start to mimic each other, like in a certain pattern. Even though their beats per minute may have been faster or slower, the space between them started to show, like the space between the beats per minute, started to show that there was communication going on. They began to be in sync, right? I could talk about being in sync forever, but they experienced this communication on a deeper level. It was the heart level, which blew my mind, because when they separated them, the owner and the animal, they went back to their old heart rhythms. So you could definitely see a pattern before, the pattern together, and the pattern after, to where it was phenomenal. And I was also watching this YouTube video where this lady said, you know, if you're in a space of joy or gratitude or creativity, right? Like we can influence. It was a talk talking about, you know, raising your vibrational energy to change your life. And she talked about how when you're in a joyful space, okay, and one person can actually influence 70 million people or some crazy number. And I'm like, and before, if I hadn't read this study, I wouldn't have understood what she was talking about. But it's almost like me right now, you could be in sync with my heart rhythm if we're talking to each other. Or it's like when two lovers come together and they're totally in sync. You can just feel it, like no words are needed. There's just this bond there. Or I played softball in college. Like there were times when our team just hummed, right? Like we were there for each other. We knew exactly like who was gonna do what and like get a home run, or like that intuition, that knowing. One other study that they did that was so awesome was they did, and this has been duplicated and duplicated and duplicated, but they had pictures, okay, in a computer that where, you know, you push the space bar and the new picture would come on. Well, each picture was meant to invoke an emotional response. And so what they did is they showed these pictures to them before and measured the emotional response that they should, okay, by monitoring their heart rhythms and things, that they should be experiencing like fear or chaos or love or peace. Anyway, so all these pictures were meant to invoke an emotional response. And so they did the control where they just showed them and made sure that they were going to match the heart rhythm. And what's interesting is so they were in control of how fast they went, but it was like a half a second before they changed the picture, their heart rhythm changed to what emotion they were going to feel on that next picture without even seeing it. So it was like they didn't even have to see the picture to invoke an emotional response. They were already knowing what emotion was going to come up next, even though they'd never seen the picture. I thought that was fascinating, right? Because there's been times in my life where I've been like, oh my gosh, my heart knows. My heart knows something terrible is going to happen. I'll give you one example. So in college, I was doing the homecoming pageant, and with my good friend and my roommate, Wendy. And a few weeks before, I got really unsettled, just really nervous. And I'm like, this is like my 7th pageant. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? But I just could not shake it. Like something bad was going to happen, right? And women and men, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right? You just knew something was not right. And I had it way before. I had it weeks before. And I feel like it was kind of preparing me, because what ended up happening is 20 minutes before we were supposed to be there, and we were running late anyway, to get to the actual pageant, we were literally 100 yards from our destination. We got in a really bad car accident. And this car pulled in front of us, no time to swerve or dart or anything. We just head on, kind of T-boned the other car. And we ended up going to the hospital and yada, 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 push kind of shove. I ended up still competing in the competition, but Wendy unfortunately got hurt pretty bad, being the driver. And so I always look back on that experience going, how did I know that? How did I know that? And it's almost like I just need to accept that my heart knows things. It knows things that my brain can't comprehend or shouldn't comprehend, because it's all logical, right? This is all intuitive. Like we all talk about intuition and it just how we can receive revelation if you're really spiritual. Like your heart and your mind connect, right? When you know something. And anyway, I just thought this book was fascinating. The heart intelligence. And just think about it. Think about how you can influence others with your heart. So if your heart's really angry or you're feeling this emotion, guess what? That vibe gets sent to them and it will affect everybody in the room, okay, of their heart and their rhythm and their emotions as well. We are all interconnected more intricately than we could possibly imagine. So keep your heart pure. Keep it clean and listen to your heart because it knows things. Thanks. I'm Brittany Delivers, Brittany delivers.com. I am a keynote speaker, a breakout speaker, and I want to see you at your next event. Please subscribe and thanks for watching.